So I get a lot of questions this time of year about the Keystone test. How do I study for the Keystone? How do I know what's going to be on it? Where are some resources I can go for more information? One of the first places I like to direct all of my students is to this website called pdesas.org, and that is the Pennsylvania Department of Education Standards Aligned System. This is where the Pennsylvania Department of Education publishes all of the information about the Keystone. If you're ever interested in what you need to know for the Keystone, you can go to this website called Curriculum Framework. And from there, you would come down to a course and you would select biology. And then it will give you all of the main ideas that are going to be tested on the Keystone. And all of these main ideas are things that we do go over throughout the school year. And underneath each main idea, there's more main ideas. But again, we touch on all of those in class. You don't really need to worry about those so much, unless you're just curious. What you may want to know about is this section up here called assessment. When you go to assessment, what you are able to do is actually look at sample Keystone questions. And you want the Keystone exam right here at the top. And obviously the Keystone exam that you're taking is science and biology. So there are 3 documents here. This first one has sample questions. So if you click on that, it opens a file where you can look at example questions that might be on the Keystone, example open-endeds, and multiple choice. Down here is some other examples of open-endeds, what open-endeds might look like and how they are going to score them. They're scored on a scale of 0 to 3. And again, you would learn more about that here on the general descriptions. How can you study? Well, obviously you can go through these sample questions to kind of see what types of questions might be asked. But my #1 recommendation is to go to Study Island. So studyisland.com, one of the best places to go. There's a reason the district has invested so much into Study Island. When you log on to Study Island, now I'm going to log on as a teacher, but for students it's kind of the same. Remember that you log on with your ID number followed by @ASD, and your password is your first name, all lowercase. Your screen looks a little different than mine, but it's essentially set up the same way. Over here on the left-hand side, underneath your picture, you're going to click on Science. And then within Science, you're going to click on Keystone Biology. And then once you click on Keystone Biology, that's the only option for you to choose from there. So your screen will then look like this. It will be all the different subjects that we have studied or will study throughout the year, and each subject is then broken down into sub-subjects. So let's say, for example, you really need to go back and study chemistry. Chemistry is here, section 2, chemical basis of life, and the 2 things that we talked about were organic molecules and enzymes. So when you want to study one of those sections, you would put a checkbox next to them, and then you would click Start Studying. And there are 4 ways you can study. Let's pick a certain number. Okay, you can pick a certain number of questions. This one goes up to 60. You can do practice mode, which is kind of like quizzing yourself. You can actually print a worksheet. These are good to be able to use if you don't have a computer at home. You can print some worksheets at school to go over, or you can do game mode. I recommend game mode a lot for students playing at home. So there are different kinds of games: beginner games, intermediate games, and challenging games. Let's pick a beginner game here just for now, just so I can kind of show you what the games look like. So we're going to pick island hopping. And the way that the game works is it's going to ask you a question. You have to try and get the question right in order to play the game. So I'm going to start by clicking Play Game. It's taking just a little bit of time here to load. All right. So then here is my game screen. And again, it'll ask me questions about various things. So which of the following enzymes serves as a catalyst in metabolism? Well, okay, we could remember that enzymes end in ASE. Metabolism, amylase is found in our saliva. Lactase digests milk. Pepsin, polymerase, remember poly means many, and this is a building enzyme. So I'm going to go with 1, 2, and 3 only. And hey, I got the question right. So I can go next question. It's going to have you answer a couple of questions before it's going to let you actually play the part of the game. So another thing that you can do, besides playing games and quizzing yourself, is you can do review lessons. And you're going to find review lessons the same way. So right here, next to the topic, it says lesson, and then there are other symbols. So here next to molecules in water, it says lesson. If we click on lesson, it's going to open an additional screen that we can go through to review things. So if organic molecules were giving us a hard time, instead of reviewing our notes, Study Island gives us sort of an abbreviated lesson. So here's the first page talking about carbon. There's the abbreviated lesson. Go to the next page. Now it's going to talk about molecules. So we talked about carbs, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. There's carbs, there's lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. Next page. And it gives us a little rundown lesson about water, because remember we talked about water as another important molecule for all life. So those are the lessons. You can study the lessons before you do the practice questions, or you could just study the lessons in general. If we want to talk about some of these other little symbols, these squares are flashcards. So if you're doing this at school, this is kind of fun because you can print up all of the flashcards that they have for each section, or you could just print a small amount. Whoops. And once you do that, it'll actually make you flashcards that you can print and take with you to practice. This little beaker symbol here means that there's a virtual lab activity. So if you had trouble understanding enzymes, maybe sometimes doing the lab is beneficial. Of course, it's going to take forever to load, but you do need to run some updates possibly on your computer to run the labs. But the labs are kind of cool because it's a little way of taking what we did in class and putting it into a bit of a virtual environment. Loading, loading, loading. And of course, my computer is going to decide to freeze. Oh, wait, now we're thinking about it. So here is the enzyme lab. So you could do the enzyme lab as a little bit of practice to help you understand more about how enzymes work. And it does walk you through the lab step by step by step. There are all kinds of activities that you can do in the lab. So that's just one example of studying. Another example that I really like of studying is review videos. We have a couple of different video sites that we recommend for students to review. Bozeman Science is one of them. You guys have seen Bozeman throughout the year. If you go to Bozeman's site directly instead of going to YouTube, you can pick just biology, and that will help you narrow down the videos. So if you know something that you really struggled with perhaps was just understanding all the parts of the cell, you can go to Unit 3 cells and you could do a tour of the cell. Here's a video on meiosis and mitosis if you had trouble understanding the difference between mitosis and meiosis, diploid versus haploid, all kinds of good stuff with Bozeman. One of my other personal favorites is called Crash Course. Crash Course is a YouTube group. They run really amazing, really good information about different topics. And with Crash Course, you can actually do anything from history and science to English and mathematics. But once you get onto Crash Course's page, if you scroll down, they do split up topics: history, big history,
Hi, I'm John.
psychology. Whoops, we don't need to hear a Crash Course video right now. literature, chemistry, U.S. history, ecology. We will be doing stuff with ecology a little bit later. And then, of course, there's biology. So you can pick different biology videos. There are a ton here. If you click the little arrow off to the side, it'll show you more as you go. There's the animal cell, plant cell, transport, photosynthesis, heredity, etc. One last one that I do like to recommend besides Crash Course, and again, you've probably all heard of this one, is Khan Academy. Khan Academy is used a lot for explaining concepts and processes on how to do things, but I also like Khan Academy for some topics in biology. And if you go to Khan Academy's website, you can start learning immediately. You don't have to necessarily sign in, but Khan Academy does have a lot of good information. If you find Khan Academy on YouTube, it doesn't keep track of what videos you watched, which is perfectly fine. But again, it does separate them in a nice, easy to understand way. There's physics, and then here we go, we have biology. So evolution, natural selection, all things that we're going to start talking about here soon. There's DNA, chromosomes, meiosis, mitosis. Again, all really great ways to review and study. We will be doing about 2 weeks worth of review in class right before the Keystone, but as always, I recommend that you don't wait until the very last minute and you get started now. If you have any further questions, please feel free to speak to me in class or email me directly. Thank you.